Okay, great. Great to see you guys. That's a lot of you. My name is Paweł. A very brief introduction about myself. I used to be a Java developer for roughly 12 years, and then I moved to the so-called dark side. So I'm taking care of people, several teams of DevOps and developers at Xebia, Poland. And today I will tell you a story about fighters, bards, druids, and wizards in our industry and how to deal with them. Okay? So this is our plan. The plan resembles like a manual for role-playing game. Who of you have played any role-playing games? Paper, computer? Yeah, the title worked. Debate worked. Great. Okay. So I will talk about those 4 characters, and we are going to do three passes over them. It will be 3-pass presentation. Okay. So first, very quick introduction. Then a little bit of background mechanic, why I chose those particular characters, what are the mechanics of them. Then we're going to do a second pass, so a little bit more details. What are their advantages, the shadows, and what we have to be careful about, right? And then the third pass is called the role-playing manual part. So how to play the game, how to talk to them, basically how to deal with them. And at the end, we have kind of like advanced stuff. Sometimes you can call it miscellanea. If you don't know how to call the last chapter of presentation, miscellanea is okay. Right. All right. So let's start with our introduction to our 4 characters. Okay. So first disclaimer: I will be using sometimes colors interchangeably with the names of characters. I will get to why in a few slides. So there will be red, green, yellow, and blue. The second disclaimer: usually in role-playing games we have some kind of attributes like strength, dexterity, right, intelligence, etc. And often a class of characters is based on one of those attributes, right? So our fighter is based on strength, right? The fighter is very strong technically. He can do a lot of damage. He can hack and slash goblins on the battlefield and hack and slash tasks in Jira, right? Very, very efficiently. He can take a lot of damage and deal a lot of damage. Then we have our yellow bard. The bard is based on charisma, very charismatic, acts as kind of like a supporting character. So boosting the morale of the whole team. And also he's like an interface, the face of the team. He can talk to anyone if needed. Then we have our green druid. The green druid is based on perception, but also wisdom. He's also like a supporting character, but more like in a way of healer, defender, stuff like this, okay? And our blue wizards, right? Wizards are based on raw intelligence. They like to keep a distance from things, but they can also dish a lot of damage, and they are very wise and smart. So what we are going to do today, we talk about communication, being one-to-one communication, some meetings, preparing presentation, even sending an emails, what to focus on when you are dealing with those 4 characters, how to prepare to engaging them, right? And we will look into their strength and shadows, what we have to be careful about. So a little bit of mechanics, the background, why this is all happening. Okay, so basically from millennia, ancient times, we had this idea that we have certain types of people. Some people are like raging fire. Some people are like air. Some people are just flowing like water. Some are very stable and solid as a rock. Right? Some cultures used animals for that, mapping to animals, so metaphors like this, but this is the general idea. Over 2,000 years ago, there was this theory by Hippocrates and Galen that depending on the ratio of certain fluids in your body, you have a different character, right? Whether this is blood, bile, or something else. We have these classic types of characters like choleric, sanguinic, melancholic, and phlegmatic. And they are a bit similar to our 4 here, but not exactly. Around 100 years ago, William Marston wrote a book about 4 types of normal people or something like this. It was about those typical characters. 50 to 70 years ago, we started to do tests, right, in corporate to see what anyone is capable of. And around 15 years ago, Thomas Eriksson wrote a book, Surrounded by Idiots. Has anyone read it? We have one person. Yeah, so this is roughly based on this book, and Eriksson uses colors for that. Those red, yellow, green, and blue. So I will be sometimes using those interchangeably. So now, imagine we have 2 dimensions of our personality. Okay, let's have first dimension. will be our energy level. So we can have introverts, shy, quiet people on one side, and then extroverts, a lot of energy, action first, right? Then thinking first, action. So we kind of understand it, I would say, intuitively, usually, right? And then we have our second scale. This is our focus. On one end, we are focused on people. We want to have good relations. We want everyone to feel good, have our social background, etc. And at the other end, we don't care about people. We have job to do. We have tasks. We have algorithms. We have processes, and this is what interests us. So now, if you put it on a matrix, we have our 4 characters, right? We have our red fighter, who is extroverted and focused on tasks. We have our yellow bard, who is also extroverted, but focused on people, very social creature, right? Then we have our green druid, who is also focused on people, but more on the shy, introverted side, okay? And then we have our wizard, who is introverted and focused on tasks. And those are our 4 colors, 4 characters. You might be familiar with this acronym. Who knows the DISC acronym? Yeah, we have a little bit more people, right? So this is this classic 4 personalities: the dominant, the fighter, the influential, the bard, steadiness, the druid, and conscientiousness. Difficult word. I say orderly. Sometimes it's called analytical, so it's not DISC but DISA in some sources. So now, what does it all mean, right? Does our type predict how we behave in all the situation? Of course not. It's just that we have these preferences that we gain over usually first 20 levels of our characters, 20 years of our life, our upbringing, our early experiences, and the genetic lottery. So what kind of nervous system we randomize? So what were our roles on our character at start, right? And this determines our attitudes, our preferences, how you'd like to behave. But then on the other end, we have the environment, right? And depending on the situation, you would behave differently. If you come up with a heavy metal concert, for instance, you would behave differently than if you come out from the church, right? It kind of influences your mood. And then what is important here, remember that this is just model. There's a lot of models of personality with 4 types, 8 types, 16 types. We have 5 fluid scales in the big 5, etc. It's much as in role-playing games. There's a lot of systems. They have different ideas. We love some of them. We hate some of them, right? Depending who you ask, you will get a different answer for that. But in general, all models are false, but some of them are useful. So just remember about this. Don't be very religious and attached to this particular idea. All right, so let's do our second pass on our characters. So our red fighter, the dominant type, extroverted, focused on tasks. What are the superpowers? Fighters are very effective. They are up to the point. They can do a lot of work. Right? They are very decisive when there is some difficult decision to be made. Everyone is struggling. The fighter will just go and say, okay, we'll do this, and just follow that. The fighter is very brave. He can fight dragons, and also he can fight CTO or CFO or CEO, right, if needed. And often very ambitious, right? A lot of high goals. And there are some shadows to this. Fighters are often stubborn because they think that their way to do things is the only right way. If you have some other way, you are wrong, right? And try to argue with that. It's tricky. They are a little bit pushy, rough around the edges, right? They don't really care if anyone does hurt or not in the process. If they charge into the battle, they can trample enemies, but also allies. It happens. Now, how does it convert to our world, to technology, right? Fighters are often this type of heroes who can go into the sprint and do half of the work for half of the team of all the sprint in just one day, right? They can write a lot of code. This code kind of works, usually. Maybe it's not tested, or maybe there are some bugs, etc., but there is a lot of it and it does some kind of work. There is some stuff, libraries, frameworks that will just do the job. Maybe they are not perfect, but they are good enough. They are great if you have some crisis situation, right? The production is on fire, you have to save the production, do some risky deployment, maybe run some SQL query, something like this. They are great in those situations. And if we are at some estimation situation, at refinement, they will usually give you a lower estimate because they are sure they can do this faster than anyone else, and often they can, but it might be tricky. Okay, so let's get to some examples from popular culture. Is there anyone who does not recognize any of those characters? No pressure. All right. So we have Daenerys from the Game of Thrones. Daenerys, especially in the later seasons, is just that focused on getting on the Iron Throne, and she doesn't care about basically anything else. We have Monica from Friends. Right? Monica always have to have things her way, right? So, for instance, when they are playing some basketball game in the backyard, she doesn't care if anyone gets hurt, break a leg or whatever. She just wants to win. That's what's important. We have Gimli from Lord of the Rings, right? When they are at the Council of Elrond, they are figuring out what to do with the One Ring, right? What Gimli does. Yeah, he just takes his axe and smashes the ring. So action, no thinking, just action. Bernadette from the Big Bang Theory, very small person, but with powerful voice that she uses to get whatever she wants. We have Dwight. Dwight wants to be the assistant manager, not assistant to the manager. This is very important for him, right? And Lord Vader, if Vader does not like something, right, I'll choke you with a force. Okay, so those are our red fighters. Moving on to yellow bards. Influential type, extroverted, focus on people. Superpowers, they have this aura of optimism, plus to morale of the whole team. They have this spark of creativity. They think of things other people never would thought of, right? This weird connection of different unexpected ideas, right? Very creative. Also master communicators, they can talk to anyone, they can convince anyone to do most of the stuff, right? And there are some shadows as well. They sometimes tend to be focused on themselves, right? A bit egoistic. Sometimes they are just too much. They are talking all the time. They might be a bit overwhelming in this process. They often, if they find some new shiny things, they will just go to the new shiny thing and forget about everything else and leave the mess behind. And someone else has to clean up. So a little bit undisciplined and messy. And this pretty much works in our industry, right? So if there's any new shiny thing, new library, new version of a language, of a framework, they will just have to try it just because it's new, right? Let's try this because it's new. Or new project, anything else that is new and shiny. If we have some kind of routine, we have to write a 10th endpoint or 10th piece of documentation, they are out, basically, right? That's not interesting. They are great if you need to sell something or present something. So doing a sprint demo for the company or for the department or for some managers, for instance, going to a conference, doing presentations, standing for 12 hours at the booth, giving away some rubber ducks and stuff like this. This is great, and they are great interface to your team. They can always sometimes do some job without writing code, right? They can just send an email or talk to somebody by the coffee machine or by beer or something, and it can sometimes solve the business problem. If there is no code to be written, there are no bugs, so this is good. Okay. Examples. So let's start with Tyrion. Tyrion at first might seem like an intellectual, so maybe he should be a wizard, but you can always see Tyrion with a glass of wine in his hand and partying, right? Tyrion is a master communicator. He can talk to anyone, basically. He can talk to a king on the Iron Throne. He can talk to a chieftain of Hill tribe. He can talk to a half-wit guard at prison, right, to get released. So he can manipulate people quite well. We have Chandler from Friends, who is like this comic relief with his beautiful sarcastic humor. A bit similar, we have Pippin from Lord of the Rings. He's also kind of like a bard in this whole adventure. In the Fellowship, we have Penny from the Big Bang Theory. Penny uses her charisma and charm to basically get whatever she wants, right? You have Michael. Yes, Michael from The Office. Michael has a lot of ideas. Like he's here, he's there. We'll be doing this. We'll be doing that. Not necessarily a good ideas, but he's like a people person with a lot of energy. And then Han Solo. It's like a classic swashbuckler who gets in troubles all the time, but he's able to talk himself out of those troubles as well. Right. So those are our bards. Moving on to Druids, the stable type, introverted, focus on people. See some superpowers, right? They can shapeshift into werebear or werewolf sometimes. That's a nice power. But they are very reliable members of the team. Very stable. Basically, you can rely on them. They are great at supporting other team members, right? So before they do their own job, their own task in Jira, they will help others and make sure that everyone is okay. They are very observant on the team dynamics, and they are great on resolving conflicts. They can spot that there is a conflict, and they can actually fix that. I would say that this is quite a positive person, so what can go wrong? Actually, Druids have this problem that they often get stuck. They might be stubborn, but in a different way than Fighter. Fighter is stubborn because they know how to do this best. Right? Their idea is the best idea. And Druids are just like, yeah, we were doing this for like 10 years like that. Why change this? It's risky. We know how to do this. Let's leave it like that. Right? So they tend to protect the status quo, not to change things. And because of that, they might be a bit undecisive, problems with making decisions, and stuck in some situation. And because they like to help others, sometimes they neglect their own tasks, and because of that they feel that they need to stay longer at work, for instance, and they can burn out because of that. So if you're a team leader or manager, you have to be careful in those situations. In technology, right? Again, very solid, very proven members of the team, best core of the team basically. They like to kind of stick to proven, meaning sometimes old technology, and sometimes with some security risks, but this is what they do often. Whenever there is a need to help anyone in the team to do a review of a task, when somebody is stuck, they are first to rush and to help. Okay, and when we are in some estimations situation, they will probably give you a higher estimate, just to be sure, to be safe, to have some buffers, right? Stuff like this. All right. Examples. By the way, you can sometimes find different types of characters on this particular characters. If you look at the internet, sometimes they place it in a different category, so it's kind of fluid. But those were I was looking for some examples of these characters in TV series and movies, and it was more or less where was the main idea in the internet. So we have John. John is the man of honor. He takes care of his men, right? He's very stable. We have Rachel, who is like the opposite of Monica in Friends. You can notice that often in TV series with ensemble casts, we have characters that are opposite, right? Because this creates some tension and conflict and is interesting. Right? We have Frodo, who is also very careful about his friends, who is like this positive character in the Fellowship. We have Leonard from the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory in general is a little bit skewed toward this blue wizardy type, so it's geeky, right, nerdy. But Leonard is like the most, say, normal person of the group, maybe aside from Penny. He's like this social glue that holds the group together, despite what Sheldon says that he's the social glue. Leonard is actually the social glue. We have Pam in the office at the reception, this positive vibe in the whole office, and the positive protagonist in Star Wars, Luke Skywalker. All right, so we are left with our wizards. So wizards, conscientiousness, order, introversion, and focused on tasks. Superpowers, very analytical, very methodical, diligent, precise. Like they are very wise, very smart. They can tackle very hard problems, and they always think about what can go wrong. Right? They're always prepared for any edge cases, any issues that can happen. There are some, of course, shadows. They are a bit rigid, emotionally cold, maybe. They are killjoys. What does it mean? So imagine you have Bard that is coming, and the Bard has idea. Okay, guys, let's do this feature. We'll do this on this page. We'll add 2 buttons. The user clicks the button. There will be an email saved. We'll push it to the database. We'll save that. We'll send another email. It will be a great idea. Let's do this. Okay, cool. And now comes the wizard. Have you thought about GDPR? We cannot store credit card numbers in this database. It won't work. We can't do this, right? And all the joy is killed, basically. This is what wizards do, right? And they are perfectionist, and it has disadvantages because they spend a lot of time and resources just polishing this last percent, this 99% of quality in our software that takes forever, basically. Right? In technology, they are great if you need to do some kind of research, right? If you need to analyze something, some complicated algorithms, processes, maybe you are leaking some cache somewhere and need to find where and fix this, stuff like this. Also, they make great testers because they think about what can go wrong, actually, right? So all the possible corner cases, ideas, situations that user can produce. And they are also quite good on those types of work that many developers don't want to do, these non-functional requirements, right? So writing tests, thinking about security, compliance, documentation, etc., because this makes the product perfect in the end, right? We have all the checkbox ticked. Right. Examples. So I have Varus, the master of whispers. Right? Varus is very cold, calculating, staying in the shadows. We have Ross. Ross is the scientist, right? And there is an interesting series of scenes in one episode of Friends when they are discussing with Phoebe about theories of evolution and creationism, right? And Phoebe is like, yeah, that's okay. You can have any theory you like. What's the problem? And Ross is like, what? Evolution is not a theory. It's a fact. It's a scientific fact, right? And he proceeds to nag Phoebe over this whole episode that evolution is a fact, right? So basically, wizards are very attached to facts, reality, and data and stuff like this, and they can get very defensive in protecting those stuff. Changing universes a little bit, we have Hermione, so the classic know-it-all. Yes, I know, I sit in the first row. And the classic wizard. We have, of course, the beloved Sheldon, mad scientist who is great at theoretical physics, but kind of terrible with people, right? We have Angela, the accountant from the office. She's a bit cold, she's rough around the edges. People don't like her that much. And C-3PO is a robot, but hey, it's science fiction, so we can have robots with personality, right? He's very precise, calculating when they are going through asteroid fields. He can calculate the odds of survival, right? It's not good, and it's not helping at the moment. Right? So he doesn't have this feeling what would be helping the morale at the moment, just precise calculations. So those are our examples of wizards. All right. So let's get to our manual. How to play the game with those characters. Start with fighter. So fighter is all about effectiveness, getting the job done, precision, keeping this to the point. So basically, whenever you are talking to fighter, you don't want to waste time. You don't want to do some chit chat, small talk, etc. Just get to the point. What we need to do? What do you want from me? Right? Be prepared with agenda, with some points when you are sending an email, when you are preparing some presentation, doing some speech. Don't do 10 minutes introduction to the problem or some description, etc., because you will lose the fighter, basically, right? Everything should have an agenda, purpose. If you have some kind of long meeting, maybe you don't need fighter for the whole meeting. Maybe you just keep him for first 10 minutes, discuss what needs to be done, what you want from him, and then let him go to hack and slash goblins, right? Jira, stuff like this. Yeah, all types of checklists, whenever you can put a checkbox or you can move stuff from left to right in Jira, works quite well. Fighters don't like wasting resources, whether this is their time or cloud resources or whatever. If you are getting into discussion with fighter, yeah, be ready for a battle, right? Because fighter is always right. He knows how to do stuff, and if you have different opinion, you are wrong, right? But on the other hand, if you don't stand up to fighter, if you never stand up and you always do whatever he wants, you might lose the respect of the fighter. So from time to time, it's good to have a little bit of discussion, right? Just to keep the morale and fun in the game. And be prepared that there might be quick decisions, right? So you might want to go to fighter to just get an opinion on something, and you might come up with a decision, so a commit to production, for instance, or a ticket created for admins or stuff like this. So stuff might be quick. Okay. let's look at our bards. Right? For bards, it's very different because you need to spend a lot of time with bards. They love small talk. They would like to know how was your day, how was your weekend, how is your dog, how is your cat, etc. Right? So you need to prepare some time to just talk to them about those different stuff. About energy, this is a general tip. If you have two people with different levels of energy, let's try to match it a little bit. Let's say you are introverted, you're talking to an extrovert. You can try to put a little bit more energy, speak a little bit faster, something like that. If you are extrovert speaking to an introvert, you might just shut up for a moment, for instance, right? It's difficult to meet in the middle, but if you try just a little bit to go to this middle, to be a little bit closer at this energy level, it will help your communication. Right? And about discussions and convincing Bards to something, Bards don't really look at problems logically from algorithmic perspective. They like this idea, these feelings, right? So it's good to just look them into the eyes and ask them, how do you feel about this? What's your gut feeling, right? This is something that will get to Bard. So all types of, grand visions, overviews, ideas. We'll do this, we'll do that. It will be great, right? It works quite well with Bards. They like to have fun at work, like to make things interesting. They like to feel important, not necessarily like decision-making important, but they just like to be included, sit at the table when something is discussed, right? Be part of the group. This is important for them, and they are basically your shining stars. So let them shine, let them do their thing to promote your team, promote your company, and do all those stuff. Okay, so we have Bards. Let's look at Druids. So for Druids, trust, partnership are very important. Druids have this inbound, built-in bullshit detector. Right? If you try to bullshit the Druid, it will probably backfire. Right? They can see through the surface, and they can see what's really inside often. So you have to be sincere. You have to explain why something is done. Don't try to bullshit them. And they like predictability. Right? There was the scene in Big Bang Theory about changes, and Leonard mentioned you don't just throw a fish into the water in a new tank of water. You have to get this fish and put it gently on the surface of the water, let them feel this water, and so you have to be careful with Druids. If there are some big changes, for instance, I don't know, you are a team leader and you will go to another team, so the team leader of your people will change. You don't do this on a big meeting. Just talk one-to-one with everyone. If you have like 5 people, for instance, don't surprise them. Right? If you have Druids and they learn at the big meeting that their team leader is going to change, they will be anxious, right? Better to spend more time and do this one-on-one. Right? Sometimes they get lost in this protecting status quo, right? Clinging to a world that is not changing. So sometimes you have to help them with the goals. What are the goals of our current product, current sprint? What we need to change to achieve that, right? They like to feel supported. They are great at supporting others, and also they need to feel this protective net, this psychological safety behind them. So this is important to help them with that, especially helping with decision making, right? Because they just will tend to get stuck, right? I have this example of people in my team that are like very druidy, and we know each other in private. Sometimes we go to some vacations or something, and when there is a decision where to go, there's just this one guy who can never decide where to go, right? If there are some proposals, it's just so typical for druids. And one about deadlines. Yeah, deadlines, don't try to push them too much, right? So it's important to explain why we need to do something, why this time, etc. Kind of maybe negotiate with them. Don't be very pushy and just, this is the deadline, that's the end. But one thing that is very, very important, Druids also often do this kind of work called the glue work. This is this being kind of in the background, helping everyone, making sure everything is okay, and it's not very visible. It's not a task in Jira, right? And often you might look from higher management level at Druid and see that, okay, he's not doing a lot of tasks, he's not writing a lot of lines of code. Right? Stupid metric, but anyway, often if you remove the druid from the team, it might turn out that you lose actually manpower of 3 people, right? Because the team is not working well together after the druid is removed. There's nobody to make sure that everything is working. There are conflicts, etc., etc. So it's important to remind druids that they are important for the team. And moving to our wizards. So for wizards, the structure is very important. The time, the facts, the data, they will get very protective about this, and they care about this very much. They love data. They love to be prepared. They are always thinking about what can go wrong. If they go to a conference, they have a presentation on their laptop in the cloud and 2 pen drives, or 3 pen drives. It's not that I have 2 pen drives, but yeah, I have. So they are always prepared. They will ask you a lot of questions, right? Sometimes it's even annoying. I saw a lot of similar situation when somebody is asking about this, about that, and I just see one person, there's this wizard who is asking another question about some corner case, and there's this guy at the other end. He's just, please stop. Just don't ask me more questions. I don't know for now. And you know, for wizards, it's natural. They need to know everything. They need to be prepared, right? So if you are going to discuss with wizards or do a presentation or send an email, attach a lot of facts, like additional data, links, Excel, whatever, and be prepared for questions. There will be a lot of questions. Wizards have this structured world. It's also about time, so they are usually very punctual. You know, wizard is never late, or is he early, right? He arrives precisely on time. So if you are late to a meeting with a wizard, you lose some point at the beginning. It's an easy way to lose some points. So be punctual. Don't pressure them about deadlines. In general, deadlines and requirements with wizards are tricky because you have to be specific what needs to be done. If you ask wizard to construct a car, you will get a Ferrari, right? If you want to say Fiat Panda, you have to say so, right? Fiat Panda is cheaper than Ferrari, right? If you don't have that much money for a Ferrari, you have to tell wizard that, hey, we need Fiat Panda. We need for this to work in 2 weeks or something, okay? So be precise, because otherwise you will get a perfect system, but it will be too late and too expensive, basically. Don't pressure them too much. If you are discussing some deadlines, etc., decisions, just ask questions, answer questions, go through ifs, whiles, etc., and you will arrive at some results in the end. And when you are in meetings, it's often, if you have Bard, for instance, who is very loud and talking all the time, remember to moderate a little bit, and from time to time you can ask, hey, Gandalf, what do you think about this, right? And Gandalf will give you some important insight that he otherwise would keep to himself, because there was no space, basically, to weigh in, right? So those are our wizards. Let's move to our last chapter. A few additional things to consider. So by this time, you might have an idea. What's your type? What is your character? Or what characters are your friends or colleagues? Or it might be the opposite. It doesn't fit well with you. You are neither this or that one. Okay? And both are good. Both are actually good. We have some mechanisms around this. So first of all, not every fighter, not every druid is the same. Right? We have in role-playing games we have specialization or some, you can distribute some skill points, add some perks, advantages, etc. Depends on the system. So everyone is unique, right? Every one of us is really different. There are no two people alike. And the second important mechanisms in role-playing games is multi-classing. Actually, in Erikson's book, Erikson mentions that most of people have 2 classes. Maybe one is a little bit more prominent, a little bit stronger, but usually this is 2. Many people have 3 classes. There are not a lot of people who are just, straight fighter, straight wizard, just in one direction. And you might now ask, can you have all 4 classes? The answer is no, because it's not allowed. Okay, the manual says you can't. In general, nobody is that flexible that you don't have any leaning in any direction. So let's assume we can't have all 4 classes. Maybe in the expansion there will be more characters, DLC or something. We'll see. All right. What about putting those characters together? So what characters work well? If you have people in similar place on one of those scales of personality, like for instance, similar focus. If you put fighter and wizard on a task, they are both focused on this task. They want to do this. It will work. It might work quite well. If you put a druid and wizard on the same task, they are both introverted, right? So they will work together well on this energy level. They won't rush anything. It will be nice. So it's useful. On the other hand, if you put the opposites on the same task, it could be tricky, right? Because they would have totally different idea what to do with this. If you put them on the, let's say, we have this extreme programming, pair programming or something on the same computer, it might be tricky. However, it is very good to have those contrasting personalities in the team, right? If you have a team, you have all 4 personalities, the team is really stronger. In general, we have research about this, right? That if diverse teams in the computer science, engineering, or in general knowledge work usually perform better, especially in our times that are very uncertain, very unpredictable. We need teams that are very autonomous. They can do basically everything that is needed. They can do some engineering solution. They can promote this solution in the company, for instance. So they have this bar that will talk to the CTO, to someone else to make sure that they are convinced, right? There's somebody who will make decisions. There's somebody who will make sure that everything is working, right? If we have all types of characters in a team, it works nice. So let's imagine a scenario with all those 4 characters. We are after work now. Okay, we have to organize the integration. We are going for a beer or wine. So how this might play out? The first will probably be Bard. The Bard has an idea. Let's go for integration, guys. I know a great place, actually 3 places. I know bartenders there. I can get a discount. Okay, let's do it. It'll be cool. It'll be fun. Okay, great. Now comes the wizard. Wizard will take care of details, right? So he will prepare an Excel sheet or the doodle or whatever, use some application so that anyone can mark at what dates they are available, what dates are more preferred, what dates they could go but would prefer not to if possible. You can compute the precise time when everyone will be happy or almost everyone will be happy. He will create placeholder in the calendar, send out emails, remind everyone, etc. So all the details. Then we have the druid. Druid will make sure that everyone will be happy. So if we have this vegan friend, for instance, the druid will make sure that we are going to go to a place with some vegan food, not just French fries and water, right? For instance, when somebody has too much alcohol at the end of the party, the druid will put them into the cab or Uber or whatever, make sure that they will be safe, going home safe, right? And then when we have to we have an impasse, we don't know where to go, we can always ask fighter to lead the way, right? To make a decision, okay, we are going this date, this place, let's go. Assault on the pub, right? And now, what happens if you miss somebody in the team, right? If you miss the fighter, there is nobody to make those important and brave decisions, right? If you miss the Bard, then you don't have this spark of creativity, this morale uplifting, this fun. If you don't have a wizard, then you have nobody to take care of all the details, to think about what can go wrong and prepare for that, right? And if you miss the druid, it might be the case that you don't really have a team. You just have a random set of people that are going in different directions. There is no one to take care about all of that. All right, folks, this is the last slide. This QR code is a LinkedIn handle. If you would like to get in touch, do a virtual high five, or maybe you have some very private questions or whatever, you can catch me on LinkedIn. I'm also on some other social media there. I have a blog. It's called How to Train Your Java. It has a Java in name, but to be honest, it's mostly about software and mostly peopleware nowadays. But if you like to read, there is a 2-part article, I think types of developers or something like that, like this, somewhere there, a few articles away probably. And also there are slides from this presentation. If you wanted to take some picture and you miss the slide, there are all the slides and there are recordings in English. And if for some reason you want recording in Polish, it's also there. If you want to share with some friends. And guys, take care of you, take care of your friends at work, and thank you very much. We have 4 minutes if there are some questions.
Hi, thank you for the talk. Before the talk, I assumed that this will be about stereotypes within roles. I mean, Bards is project manager, developer is wizard, ops is warrior, etc. Would you do some kind of mapping? Is it a good idea or not?
It's tricky. I was actually looking for that. You know, there was whole science like 50, 70 years ago, which personality is best suited for a given job, right? Because the corporate wanted to maximize the profit, right? They will test you. If it comes out as wizard, they will, push you into direction of something, right? So there are certain leanings, I would say. If you have a team of accountants, probably it's better to have mostly wizards there, right? If you have a team of developer advocates, it might be better to have bards, but not only. I heard a lot of introverted developer advocates, because they say that they can just talk once to 100 people and they don't have to talk to anyone individually, right? So they conserve the energy. I mean, rather introverted myself actually, but I'm not a developer advocate per se. We had some discussions about this, for instance, regarding specialization at our company. And one interesting idea was that when we are looking at backend developers and DevOps or admin people, it looks like it's more common for DevOps that they are more on this extroverted fighter side. Because if we thought about this, that they like risk a little bit more. Like the backend developer just writes the code, tests on his machine, it works, it's kind of safe environment, and the DevOps is on the production. He can change something in a pipeline which breaks work of 100 people or 1 billion users, right, or something like this. So it's kind of scary. So we had this idea that those more extroverted, risk-liking people are going more in this DevOps direction. But in general, in a longer version, I had a slide about leadership here. What's the best personality for a leader? And actually, there isn't, right? You can be a leader with any personality. You have just a different style of leadership, very different style of leadership. And it works for all personalities. So in general, what's the outcome of this? You can do anything you want in the end. Usually, you will just do this in a slightly different way that fits your character. So that would be the idea about the mapping.
Any other question?
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation first.
Thank you.
I want to ask about there are some sort of people that I would call they would like to form a group of mafias. Like if you're with them, then you're the best. They will agree with you all the time. But then if you're the opposite, you don't agree with them, they would exclude you even though if you're okay. How do you categorize these people and how do you deal with them?
Oh gosh. That's a tricky question. I think it's when I mentioned different systems of personality, there is the most popular system, I think, or the most scientific system currently is the Big Five. There are 4 traits, and you are basically ranked or each of those 4 traits. And there is one trait called openness. So maybe those types of people have just low openness. They are not really open to changing their decision or to trying new things, something like that. So I would have to use different system for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
22 seconds. Okay, thanks.